Today I am here in my clay studio that I share with a bunch of other amazing artists in St. Petersburg, Florida. And I'm excited to teach you a couple tricks and tips on how to teach ceramics. My background is in ceramics before I became a teacher. I worked at local galleries and studios and taught all kinds of ages. And about 7 years ago, I was hired with Pinellas County to teach art classes with high school 2D, 3D, some AP courses. In the last 7 years, I've been teaching K through 5th grade elementary art classes. And obviously, ceramics is my favorite unit. What I've gathered from other teachers is that ceramics sometimes can be overwhelming or intimidating. So that's why I'm here. I want to give you a little bit of information about clay, glazing, and the kiln. So first, let's start with clay. There are many kinds of clays out there that you can use. I'm going to suggest a low fire, O5 or O6 clay, so that way you have efficiency with your kiln. And so you can get a white body, you can get all kinds of different colors, but I suggest just using one. That way your clays don't mix, you don't get some weird color clay, and also you don't have to clean your tools that often because you're not concerned about the dried clay getting mixed too much. Although I do suggest to clean your tools, don't get me wrong. With clay, you know it's very soft, and that's what makes it so great to use. Kids love to use it, but there's a lot that goes into it as a teacher. You have to make sure you clean up correctly, you have to make sure you have the supplies, and then you have to glaze it and fire it twice. So the first firing is called a bisque, which is short for biscuit. And what needs to happen for you to fire it is the clay needs to be super dry. And so I'm going to tell you some quick ways to know when it's ready to be fired for that first bisque firing. One of the ways is the clay color. So you can see here, this is still drying. It's a darker color than my completely ready clay here. Now, another way that's really quick and easy is by the touch. This feels cold. This does not. This is room temperature. So I know this is ready to be fired. And if you're still not sure, put it on your cheek. That's a quick way to know if it's ready because it's not cool at all. And this one here is nice and cool. Now let's talk about glazing. Glaze is really fun for the kids. And I think it's important for you to know a little bit first before you offer them glazing. So test tiles is a great way to think about testing your glaze before you let them use it. Also, the glaze color doesn't always match the color in the bottle. So it's important for the students to pick with the test tiles the glazes they would like to use. Now here's one big tip I like to share with everyone. Make sure your glaze cone temperature matches your clay cone temperature. And the clay cone temperature will be told on the box, or when you purchase it, it will say a cone firing range. This is 05, so I write the name of it and I write the cone on there. Your glaze must also match. Think of it like this. Glaze is kind of like a coat, right, on the outside of your project. So they must match. So 05 glaze, 05 clay. Now, the glaze bottle will tell you the witness cone temperature. So this says 05 on here. So it's easy to know this is an 05. Then I just write it on the top so it's more convenient and quick and easy. Once you glaze the piece, because it's already been fired once, you'll need to do a final firing, and that's going to give you a shiny appearance. Now let's talk about that oven. Your kiln probably is electric if you're teaching in a class. And so you want to get to know your kiln just like you're getting to know your clay, your glaze. You need to practice using the kiln. Now, I have a lot of questions from teachers that say, how do you know when to fire? So here's how I do it. I'm at work 7 to 8 hours every day. I know I can get my kiln temperature up to the 05 temperature it needs to be within that amount of time. And here's why. The day before, I know I need to finish my bisque or my final glaze temperature in the kiln. I load it up. I organize the shelves by classroom, so I know the top shelf will be for a particular class, and I know the middle will be for a different class, and then of course the bottom for another. I jot that down in a log. So every time I fire, I write down the date, what type of firing it is, how long it took, and the name of the class that I used that shelving for. So the day before I've got my kiln loaded, I'm going to do something called a candle for about 4 hours. So for 4 hours, I'm going to have the prop opened on the top of the kiln, and I'm going to have the temperature just reach maybe 150 degrees. So within 4 hours, your clay is going to dry out, and I know it will be ready the next day to completely fire to that 05 temperature. So after those 4 hours, you close up the kiln, turn it off. First thing in the morning when you come back the next day, you can start that program or your firing, depending on if you have a manual or a digital kiln. By the end of the day, it should turn itself off automatically. Always check that before you leave. And then in the morning, it will be cool enough to open and hand back to your students. I hope this information has been really useful for you.